Welcome back to This Week. Time now to get the views of our media and political experts. Bob Tuke is the former head of the state Democratic Party, and Steve Gill is a syndicated conservative talk show host. And we should tell you, we tape these shows on Friday, and there's a lot of stuff going on, so we're going to talk a little bit about stuff that may be changing by the time we air on Sunday. Let's start, of course, not really a political story, but the tragedy at Fort Hood. And it shows, once again, really, if someone doesn't care about dying, you really can't stop these kind of attacks from happening, can you? If some person is bent on just not living through an attack, he can do it.
I guess that's so. I mean, it is so, and we see it again and again, and I don't have any answer for it, and I don't think anybody can, because if you try to get inside the head of somebody that would do something that brutal and that vicious, right. I can't get there.
Although I will say that, this is, even though it was on a military post, I think people have an idea, as you see the stories from Afghanistan and Iraq, that you've got all these soldiers running around with weapons. Here stateside, there are not weapons on military posts, right, except by the police or by guards. So it's not like he was going into a room full of armed guys and was going to get in a firefight. He knew he was going into a place where he was likely to have the only gun and could kill a lot of people before he got taken out or got taken down.
And the person who stopped it, the woman police officer, was a private police officer, not a soldier, so she was probably one of the only armed people in there. And again, the lot's going to be changing. We don't know motives. We don't know. A lot of it is still happening as we speak, but just a terrible tragedy.
And he brought civilian weapons in there, so they weren't Army weapons that he had. But one of the things that I think we really need to focus on now is people really need to tone it down. I don't attribute this to any of the other stuff that's been going on, the teabagger stuff and all that. I don't mean to make a connection, but it is so easy to get emotional about this. I know I'm emotional about it. We all are. And we really need to step back, I think, in our society and just tone things down a little bit, be grateful for what we have and say a few prayers and hope that we can not have this kind of insanity, the one that you just told me about in Orlando following the day on. I mean, we can't have that.
I think these are two different things, though, and while I would agree with you, people need to tone it down and be aware. I don't think it is a big question about the motivation here. This is a guy who, according to the news reports, was ranting on websites, in Islamic jihadist websites, was condemning American involvement, was an activist Muslim, and was apparently, according to numerous accounts, shouting Allah Akbar as he was gunning people down as a Muslim member of the military. So, again, I don't think it's something that's perplexing of what his motivation was. We've seen, unfortunately, these incidents, whether it was Hassan Akbar, the 101st soldier who threw hand grenades into the Kuwait deployment center. We saw it just recently with a Muslim shooting and gunning down an American soldier at a recruiting station in Little Rock, Arkansas, and declaring that Allah says this is what Muslims are supposed to do. We do know the motivation. The question is, are we going to do anything about it?
We'll find out more as the days go on, too.
It's really troubling that the news reports have come out now that he was sending these
6 months ago
vicious emails 6 months ago. And my question is, what is a psychiatrist in the United States Army doing, still having that job, if he's sending out that kind of information? I just don't get it.
The question is whether we've gone so politically correct that they knew this and felt like, well, we can't question it because you've got this almost shield that is not reflective of common sense. We need to treat people who are espousing these kind of violent tendencies, whether it's a skinhead Ku Klux Klan spouting member of the Marines or the Army or the Navy, or whether it's a Muslim who's spouting this kind of jihadist stuff. We need to look at the warning signals when we see them. We need to act.
A lot of questions, especially about, like we said, what they knew about these postings 6 months ago. Another big news that happened today on this Friday, unemployment comes out for the nation above 10%, 10.2%. Really bad news for the administration politically, but really bad news for the country as more and more people continue to lose their jobs.
I don't think there's any question that the impact of the tough financial times we've been through has yet to play all the way out. And it makes me sad, but it doesn't surprise me to see that level of unemployment. And we're going to see some more housing problems as well. It takes a long time to play out the kind of economic hardship that our country started in on the financial side, but we'll come out of it. And the last time we had unemployment above 10% was in 1983, and we came out of that one. But there are tough times ahead, and we all need to be mindful of that.
We've come out of it before, but we've come out of it usually by employing tax cuts, by creating prosperity, by giving businesses more opportunity. And what we have, unfortunately, with this administration is trillions and trillions of dollars in spending that are going to drive up interest rates, that are going to make it harder and harder to come out. And this weekend, they're wanting to go ahead with a $1.2 trillion health care reform package that we can't afford, that doesn't make economic sense at a time that we already have 10.2% unemployment.
One good thing, if there is a good thing about this current recession and this high unemployment, as opposed to 83 when interest rates were 20%, they're still very low. But as Steve said, the likelihood is they will increase.
Well, even if they increase, they won't be anywhere near that level. And of course, we've had this discussion before, but the health bill will actually save us money on health care, because absent this, it's even worse.
Not according to the Congressional Budget Office. It says both premiums go up and it's going to cost $1.2 trillion. I think the problem with the interest rates is that within the next couple of years, if the interest rates just go up to 6% as opposed to the 3% here, 100% of what comes in from income tax revenue in America will have to go just to pay interest on our debt. We're in a deep trouble ahead if we have no money to pay for guns, butter, education, roads, anything, because everything's going to pay off trillions of dollars in debt.
Healthcare reform, the other story that's kind of in flux by the time this airs on Sunday. A vote is planned for Saturday, but now we're being told maybe not. Maybe the votes aren't there by the Democrats to try to get this out of the House. It looked like it was going to happen Saturday. We're just going to have to wait and see, I guess, now.
You know, obviously the elections on Tuesday had an impact on some of the so-called blue dog or moderate Democrats, those that are in districts kind of like Virginia, kind of like New Jersey, that may be worried about their jobs next year. And then I think these unemployment figures on Friday, 10.2% has to give them pause. Nancy Pelosi has decided not to let the members of Congress go home and hear from their constituents. She wants to hotbox them, keep them there, and shut off from the people. That tells you how bad this thing is.
I'll tell you what they are doing. They are counting votes.
Yes, they are.
And they're not going to take a vote until they've got the count. Is that the number that's what they're doing. They're counting votes.
This week, as you talked about, the election happened, and Nancy Pelosi said the Democrats actually won. Now, I think she was talking about this House seat in New York, as opposed to losing two big governor seats in New Jersey and Virginia.
Well, I think there isn't any question that the Republicans should claim a victory for Tuesday, and so we all, we Democrats just need to kind of get over that.
There's spin and there's going beyond all recognition.
But the truth is that these couple of governorships, we didn't have, I'll just say it, we didn't have very good candidates, and I think the Republicans did, especially in Virginia. And I would like to see it as a renaissance of the Republican Party, because I think it's important to have a strong Republican Party, and I do not think it's good for the country to have the Republican Party controlled by teabaggers. I think we need to have good people.
Chris Christie was an unabashed conservative. He won in New Jersey. Bob McDonnell was an unabashed conservative. He won in Virginia. When we run moderates like John McCain, we lose.
Steve Gill, Bob Tuke, appreciate your insight. Stay with us. This week continues in a moment.